So, here's what happens when massive corporations acquire game-changing talent that threatens to make their entire leadership structure irrelevant. The established executives can't just fire this asset. That would cause shareholders to revolt and consumers to abandon ship completely. Instead, they deploy something far more sinister. They micromanage this revolutionary talent into submission. They force them to operate behind mediocre veterans who lost their innovative edge years ago. And whenever they're forced to discuss this prodigy publicly, they use specific language designed to strip away professional credibility while reminding everyone exactly who's still running the show.
Yeah, I thought they did a really good job. This is a group that hasn't been together very long. We've kind of mixed the matchups, mixed the rotations. We played our players a little bit longer stretches than what we had done in the first two games. And so I thought initially they got off to a good start. I probably played them a little bit too long of a stretch at some of.
Now we're witnessing this corporate playbook unfold live on the global basketball stage. The USA women's national team isn't functioning like an elite sports organization, laser focused on dominance. They're operating exactly like a panicked Fortune 500 company that's absolutely terrified of its own inevitable future. The veteran players have completely captured the coaching decisions, insisting that their political pecking order gets protected no matter what, even if it means deliberately destroying the team's offensive potential.
Yeah, I was yelling at them the other day. I was calling them peanut butter and jelly because they were in the wrong place. But it's really cool, man. A respect for the game, and they just constantly they're constantly getting better. Whether it's defensively, offensively, IQ wise, you know when they're missing, and that's the compliment to any player. You want them on the floor. They impact the game.
3 straight games into this international tournament, audiences worldwide have been subjected to painful, sluggish, and nearly unwatchable basketball, orchestrated by veteran point guard Chelsea Gray. And for 3 straight games, the most explosive offensive weapon in basketball history, the single most valuable and efficient player the sport has ever produced, Caitlin Clark has remained glued to the bench. International media, outraged fans, and billion-dollar sponsors pumping money into the sport are all screaming for answers. They want to understand why such a valuable asset is being deliberately sidelined on the world's biggest stage.
Give us a reason as to why Caitlin Clark did not start this game, which is quite odd to me. A lot of people was very happy seeing Nate Tibbetts as the coach. He did a fantastic job running a fluid offense. I thought it was great, but overall, we need answers as to why we're not seeing Caitlin Clark implemented into this starting lineup. I don't want to hear nothing about Chelsea Gray being the starter. They said that they was going to rotate the starters, and we have yet to see Caitlin Clark be rotated in. There's only 2 more games left, bro. My goodness. Chelsea Gray to start at 3.
When head coaching responsibilities briefly shifted to Nate Tibbetts after their recent win, something interesting happened. The offense actually started flowing smoothly, mainly because the raw talent of the younger players simply overwhelmed the outdated, veteran-controlled system. But when a reporter directly challenged Tibbetts to analyze the specific lineup that completely broke the game open, that high-energy, high-speed unit built around Caitlin Clark, Paige Breckers and Angel Reese delivered a textbook example of corporate doublespeak and managerial weakness.
Today, Caitlin Clark did good, man. She played very good in the first half. 17 points, 12 assists, double-double for Caitlin. And why she has not been implemented into the starting lineup, I have no clue, man. You just got to wait and see, dog, I guess. Guys, get down in the comments section.
Just listen to the complete contradiction, the obvious mental gymnastics in his response. He sits there and openly acknowledges loving that group's creativity. He admits loving their elite shooting ability. He's literally confirming on record that this exact lineup, powered entirely by Caitlin Clark's relentless pace and otherworldly court vision, was the most explosive, effective, and dominant force on the entire floor. You recognize they spaced the court perfectly, grabbed rebound aggressively, and completely overwhelmed their opponents. But he can't simply celebrate them. He can't declare them the obvious future of this team and commit to moving them into the starting rotation, because that would completely undermine the veteran starting lineup that USA Basketball's establishment has pledged to protect. So what's his corporate damage control move? He immediately undermines their obvious success by claiming he probably kept them out there slightly too long, and suggesting they looked a bit fatigued. This represents classic, deeply cynical management manipulation. When your backup unit dramatically outperforms your primary unit across every measurable category, you have to manufacture some imaginary weakness to justify returning to the inferior option. Tibbetts is deliberately, maliciously suggesting that this incredibly efficient, wildly entertaining lineup can't handle starting responsibilities because they supposedly lack endurance, conditioning, or veteran poise. He's building the political foundation to keep Chelsea Gray in the starting role, despite overwhelming, undeniable statistical proof that this team operates on a completely different, vastly superior level when Caitlin Clark controls the ball. But the clutching manipulation is only half of this destructive suppression campaign. The real toxicity, the absolute cancerous core of corporate jealousy currently poisoning USA Basketball's locker room, was fully exposed moments later by Chelsea Gray herself. When asked to assess the rapid growth and undeniable impact of Caitlin Clark and Paige Bueckers, Gray had a career-defining moment handed to her. She could have demonstrated true, confident veteran leadership. She could have celebrated their generational abilities. She could have recognized their massive historical contribution to women's basketball's global economics and graciously embraced them as the undisputed future of the program she helped establish. Instead, she stared into those microphones and deliberately chose to publicly humiliate them. The words that came out of her mouth reveal a terrifying level of unchecked arrogance, suffocating ego, and blatant disrespect. Chelsea Gray sits on an international platform addressing global sports media and intentionally chooses to treat the two most famous, productive, and globally recognized players on her entire roster like children. She calls them peanut butter and jelly, using playground language to describe lethal professional competitors. She makes absolutely certain the world knows she had to scream at them for supposedly being out of position. This isn't veteran mentorship, this isn't leadership, this is psychological manipulation. This is how deeply insecure legacy employees desperately tried to establish fake authority over newcomers who are fundamentally superior in every measurable way. Gray understands a harsh reality. She knows her starting position exists only because of political protection from the veteran establishment. She knows that when Caitlin Clark hits the court, everything accelerates infinitely. The cross-court passes become surgical. The offensive spacing reaches perfection, and the team achieves mathematical optimization that Gray can no longer deliver. Since Chelsea Gray can't outperform Caitlin Clark on the basketball court, since she can't match her production, efficiency, or gravitational pull, she tries to diminish her through media manipulation. She wants the public to see Clark and Bueckers not as apex predators, ready to devour the entire league, but as confused, inconsistent kids who desperately need wise veterans screaming at them about where to stand. It's pathetic, transparent, and deeply embarrassing corporate insecurity. And fans are absolutely rejecting this manufactured story. The global sports audience is highly educated, completely analytical, and absolutely ruthless. They don't care about seniority systems. They don't care about paying dues. And they definitely don't care about protecting the fragile feelings of veteran point guards who are actively strangling the entire offense. One content creator perfectly captured the overwhelming, unfiltered fury of the marketplace, and the frustration is completely justified. Chelsea Gray has started 3 consecutive games, while Caitlin Clark hasn't started once. This isn't a strange coincidence. This is highly calculated. This is completely intentional, and it's entirely motivated by absolute paralyzing terror. Women's basketball's veteran establishment is currently fighting a massive multi-front war to preserve its crumbling cultural and economic control. They're battling billionaire WNBA ownership in collective bargaining negotiations, actively threatening to destroy the entire 2026 season because they're demanding a 50% revenue split that their historical viewership numbers simply cannot support. Simultaneously, they're waging a bitter, toxic internal battle against Caitlin Clark, desperately attempting to suppress the very asset that's actually creating the billion-dollar revenue they're trying to extract from owners. They're operating under the catastrophic delusion that they are the product. Chelsea Gray and the militant veterans genuinely believe millions of new fans packing arenas are showing up to watch them slowly advance the ball a court, call stagnant half-court plays, burn the shot clock, and lecture younger players about predetermined positioning. They don't realize consumers are actively and aggressively rejecting their basketball brand. Consumers want blistering speed. Consumers want 30-foot transition threes launched effortlessly from the logo. Consumers want no-look, cross-court precision passes threaded through microscopic defensive gaps. Consumers want Caitlin Clark. And despite being benched, despite being publicly infantilized by jealous teammates, and despite playing under coaches actively trying to limit her minutes and contain her massive influence, Caitlin Clark continues destroying the competition with ruthless, emotionless, unstoppable, mathematical dominance. Those numbers don't lie. You cannot argue against generating assists at that elite level off the bench in restricted minutes. You cannot suppress game-breaking double-doubles. You cannot construct public relations campaigns against raw, undeniable historical excellence. Every single time Caitlin Clark touches that basketball, she exposes the veteran establishment for exactly what it represents: a terrified, aging corporate board attempting to stop a massive, unstoppable tsunami with deteriorating infrastructure. Coaching staff can play whatever political games they choose. They can start Chelsea Gray for the remainder of this international tournament. They can distribute maximum minutes strategically to manufacture artificial rivalries and fragment the fan base. They can sit at podiums complaining about young players showing fatigue or positional confusion. But free markets remain undefeated. Corporate financial statements don't lie and they don't accommodate feelings. Massive corporate sponsors, television executives at TNT and ESPN, and billionaire owners who actually sign paychecks are observing this display of petty jealousy while taking detailed, meticulous notes. They're witnessing WNBA veterans actively sabotaging the greatest economic asset in sports history just to protect fragile egos. And when that WNBA CBA deadline officially arrives in days when owners present their final, brutal, absolutely non-negotiable proposal across boardroom tables, they'll look these militant veterans directly in the eyes and remind them of one undeniable, unforgiving truth about the hyper-capitalist system. You don't dictate empire terms when you're actively constraining its growth.